and welcome back to the channel! Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting new Souls-like games, Wuchang Fallen Feathers. This game is turning heads by mixing the brutal, punishing combat we love with a deeply immersive setting rooted in late Ming dynasty China. But how does it really stack up against other recent Souls-like, like AI, Limit, Khazan the First Berserker, and limerivt? What makes Wuchang stand out in such a crowded genre? From gameplay mechanics to narrative depth and cultural authenticity, we're breaking it all down. So whether you're a Souls-like veteran or just curious about what's fresh in the genre, stick around. This one's packed with insights you won't want to miss. Souls-likes are hotter than ever. The genre that started as a niche, punishing action RPGs has exploded into a global phenomenon. With Elden Ring's massive success, a ton of new Souls-like games are hitting the scene, each trying to carve their own niche. Among those, Wuchang Fallen Feathers has grabbed attention for doing something refreshingly different, setting itself in late Ming dynasty China, an era and location rarely explored in the genre. But before we dive into what makes Wuchang unique, let's briefly look at some of the other big Souls-likes that have come out recently. AI Limit, Khazan the First Berserker, and limerivt, each bringing something new to the table in terms of gameplay, lore, and style. AI Limit leads into a cyberpunk, biometric sci-fi world with heavy inspirations from anime. Khazan blends dark fantasy with brutal medieval-style combat and a layered narrative, and limerivt twists the classic Pinocchio tale into a dark, gothic nightmare filled with machine-enhanced enemies and intricate weapon crafting. But Wuchang stands apart by anchoring its story and design deeply in Chinese history and mythology, something that's not just skin-deep aesthetics, but woven into every system and story beat. In this video, we'll compare how Wuchang stacks up against those other heavy hitters and why its unique cultural lens makes it a fascinating new entry in the Souls-like family. Let's talk about the setting, because this is where Wuchang immediately steps out from the crowd. While most Souls-like lean heavily on European medieval or dark fantasy tropes, Wuchang plunges players into the late Ming dynasty, a time of political intrigue, social upheaval, and cultural richness. This isn't just a vague Asian fantasy backdrop, it's a historically grounded world with architecture, clothing, and societal structures painstakingly researched. The streets, temples, and landscapes reflect authentic Ming-era design, creating an atmosphere that feels immersive and fresh. This historical lens changes how the game approaches everything from enemy design, which includes folklore spirits and Ming soldiers, to the narrative, which explores real philosophical and political tensions of the era. In contrast, AI Limit drops you into a dystopian future world where technology and biology fuse in disturbing ways. Khazan sticks to classic dark medieval fantasy with brutal knightly combat. limerivt pulls from European fairy tales and gothic horror aesthetics. So Wuchang is standing apart by rooting its story in a time and place that hasn't seen much spotlight in Souls-like before. That historical foundation means players don't just feel like they're fighting monsters, they're navigating a complex society on the edge of collapse. Filled with ghostly and real-world turmoil, this setting gives Wuchang a strong identity that's both educational and atmospheric, something that adds a unique flavor to the genre. Beyond the setting, Wuchang introduces gameplay mechanics that set it apart. One of the biggest hooks is its use of dual realms. Players can shift between the physical world and a spiritual realm to solve puzzles, avoid traps, or ambush enemies. This mechanic adds a layer of strategy and world building that's fresh in Souls-likes. while Lords of the Fallen has also used a dual world concept with its Axiom and Umbral realms. Wuchang grounds this in Chinese spiritual beliefs, creating a more narrative-driven and culturally relevant experience. Meanwhile, Khazan focuses more on classic melee combat with unique weapon upgrades, and liza P innovates with weapon crafting and combo systems inspired by Pinocchio's puppetry. Combat-wise, Wuchang combines traditional Souls-like stamina management with weapon stances inspired by Chinese martial arts, adding flow and rhythm to fights instead of just dodge rolling and spamming attacks. Players have to master stance changes and weapon forms, making combat feel deeply tactical. This contrasts with AI Limit's fast-paced, the visceral feeling of Bloodborne-inspired fights, and Khazan's brutal force, heavier combat styles. liza P adds its own flair with an array of mechanical weapon modifications that change how you approach battles. So in gameplay terms, Wuchang carves its own lane by mixing traditional Souls-like mechanics with fresh cultural combat styles and a spiritual twist that feels meaningful, not gimmicky. Narratively, Wuchang weaves history with Chinese mythology in a way that's rare in the genre. It's not just about killing bosses and collecting souls. The story explores the social and political conflicts of the late Ming period, touching on themes of loyalty, corruption, and spiritual decay. Mythological elements like vengeful spirits, ancient guardians, and folk heroes are integrated as both environmental storytelling and enemy design. This contrasts with AI Limit's sci-fi horror narrative and liza P's twisted fairy tale approach. Khazan offers a dark fantasy story filled with political intrigue, but in a more Western medieval vein. The richness of Wuchang's narrative comes from its willingness to explore a specific cultural history and use that to inform both the tone and the player's emotional engagement. This depth encourages players to not just survive, but reflect on the crumbling world around them and the very human stories beneath the supernatural horrors. It gives the game a unique emotional weight that sets it apart from more generic Souls-like narratives. Visually, Wuchang shines in its attention to detail, in the recreating of the Ming-era aesthetics, from the war-torn bridges and tiled roofs to the traditional costumes and weapon designs. Every frame feels like a historical painting come to life. The color palette is often muted and earthy, punctuated by vivid reds and golds that evoke the period's art and architecture. This stands in stark contrast to AI Limit's cybernetic landscapes or liza P's dark Gothic Victorian environments. Khazan leans heavily into grim medieval fantasy with a cold, brutal atmosphere. The sound design also reinforces Wuchang's identity. Traditional Chinese instruments, haunting vocal chants, and ambient sounds of nature create a sonic world that's immersive and atmospheric. In comparison, AI Limit uses synth-heavy futuristic tracks, while liza P relies on orchestral scores with gothic horror undertones. These audio and visual choices do more than just decorate Wuchang. They help tell the story, immerse players in the world, and emotionally ground the players in cultural experience. Enemy and boss design in Wuchang is a standout feature. The game draws heavily on Chinese folklore for inspiration. You'll face Jianxi, those iconic hopping vampires, spectral warriors, corrupted officials, and mythical beasts like dragons and phoenixes twisted into dark forms. Bosses aren't just big monsters, they often embody philosophical or historical concepts, making fights feel like tests of your understanding of the game's themes. This is quite different from AI Limit's biomechanical horrors or Khazan's classic knightly and demon bosses. liza P focuses on monstrous puppets and grotesque machinery. The variety and cultural relevance of Wuchang's enemies and layers to combat encounters. You're fighting not only for survival, but against symbols of a decaying dynasty and forgotten tradition. This makes each fight feel more meaningful and less like generic obstacle clearing. So, why does Wuchang's cultural authenticity matter? Because it changes how players experience the game. For many Souls-like, the setting is either fantasy or Western medieval inspired, familiar but not personal for large segments of the global audience. Wuchang offers players, especially those from or interested in East Asian cultures, a chance to see their heritage portrayed with care and respect. It opens the door for fresh storytelling, new character archetypes, and unique world building that feels alive, not copied. This is crucial in today's increasingly global gaming community where diversity and representation is demanded and celebrated. Compared to AI Limit or Lies of P, which caters more to Western sci-fi and gothic horror tropes, Wuchang stands as a bold statement. Souls-likes can be deeply local and culturally specific while still universal in their themes of struggle, loss, and resilience. This authenticity also makes the learning curve more rewarding. You're not just learning gameplay mechanics, but engaging with a cultural's history and myths in an interactive way. Now, no game is perfect, so let's talk tech. Wuchang shows a high level of polish, especially in environmental details and animation fluidity. The combat feels tight and responsive, with the added weapon stance system adding depth without overwhelming players. Compared to AI Limit, which impresses with its flashy Unreal Engine 5 effects, but struggles at times with optimization and bug fixes, Wuchang aims for a balance of beauty and stability. Khazan is mechanically solid, but occasionally leans on old-school Souls-like tropes without much innovation. Lies of P pushes creative combat options, but has had reports of performance dips on some platforms. So while Wuchang is ambitious, it also shows a maturity in delivering a refined, immersive experience without over-promising. This polish makes it easier for new and returning Souls-like players to get into the game without frustration. An often overlooked part of a Souls-like success is how developers engage with their community. Wuchang's developers have been vocal about their cultural inspirations, openly discussing how they want to share a piece of Chinese history with the world. This transparency helps build trust and excitement. Compared that with AI Limit's more mysterious marketing and Lies of P's traditional hype cycle, Khazan also keeps a solid, steady flow of updates and listens to players' feedback, but doesn't emphasize cultural storytelling as much. When a game shares its passion and process, it invites players to become a part of the journey. That creates loyal fans. So far, Wuchang's community is steadily growing, with lots of discussions around the lore, combat techniques, and its cultural depth. This shows a strong foundation for a long-term support and potential expansions. To wrap things up, Wuchang Fallen Feathers stands out in the crowded Souls-like market because it combines rich historical storytelling, authentic cultural representation, and fresh gameplay innovations into one cohesive package. It's not just another tough game with big bosses, it's a journey through a fascinating era of Chinese history filled with myths, philosophy, and art. Compared to contemporaries like AI Limit, Khazan, and Lies of P, Wuchang offers a unique perspective that broadens what Souls-like can be. Its dual realm mechanic, martial arts inspired combat, and meaningful enemy design makes every encounter feel earned and culturally significant. If you're a Souls-like fan craving something fresh but still challenging, Wuchang is definitely worth your time. Whether you want to explore a new cultural narrative, master nuanced combat, or just dive into a beautifully crafted world, it delivers on many fronts. Keep an eye on this one because it might just redefine what the Souls-like genre can mean in the future. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow and reach more Souls-like fans just like you. I want to know what you think. Are you excited to explore Wuchang's late Ming dynasty world? How do you feel it compares to AI Limit or Liza P? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and if you want more in-depth Souls-like breakdowns, reviews, and discussions, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. And if you haven't already, please head on over to Twitch at limerivt to watch me play Souls-like games on the daily. Thanks for watching, Wanderers. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep those stamina bars green and those rolls perfect. Goodbye. Bye, 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 bye.